All right, we're live with episode 2. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I will explain what happened. So, Jason first of all, I'm Matt Lamar, Hoosier Hardwoods Outdoors. I got my co-host Jason Van Meter from Van Meter Sound Lures, Darren Ballard with Van Meter Sound Lures, and Cody Fortney. He is the newest member of Van Meter Sound Lures promotional team. So, Cody, thanks for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. Technical difficulties started because the last time we was on the air with this show, I'm going to be honest that my phone blew up with messages and everything else for Van Meter Sound Lures. So I told Jason, I was like, look, when I leave here, I'm cutting ties with the Facebook page until I come back for episode 2. Then I'll try to get logged on. Well, it kind of bit us. So, but anyway, right now we are on the Hoosier Hardwoods Outdoors Facebook page and the Van Meter Sound Lures YouTube channel. So if you share this out, at least people will know, be able to watch it. And we will definitely get that figured out before the next episode comes out, because I want to make sure this is on the Van Meter Sound Lures Facebook page also.
Will you get it on there for tomorrow? I guess we can share it.
We can share it. Yeah, you can share it to your page.
So we'll be sharing this to the Van Meter Sound Lures page.
Did you share it right now to the Van Meter Sound Lures Facebook page? Because technically, I guess if you do that, they can watch it on there too.
Okay, well, let me try to do that.
Yeah,
we are so sorry.
Do we have audio? Can somebody give me a comment? Do we have audio this week? Last week we went 5 minutes and had no audio, so I'm assuming we have audio. Brad Walden's watching, so.
Hearing a little bit of a delay there. Okay, I have shared this to our Van Meter and Sound Lures page.
Brad says loud and clear. Thanks, Brad, for the confirmation. Definitely appreciate it.
I've shared it too.
Okay.
For my people to see.
So let's go ahead and get started on this week's show, this episode. We're going to be discussing, when we started off, it was kind of episode 1 was an introduction to what the show was going to be about, so forth. And then since this is your first time here, we'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and how you got into the whitetail world and how you got involved with Jason and so forth. So we'll start off with you and then a little bit of your story.
Okay. Cody Fortney. Been deer hunting my entire life, really. Got started at a really young age, kind of self-taught. My neighbor actually was a really big deer hunter, and it kind of spiked my interest into it. And I started borrowing his old VHS tapes, watching them and kind of growing up on those, and learning and reading a lot and kind of doing odds and ends stuff in the woods. And as I got older, I started working for a fur buyer, Dave Fander out of Deputy, Indiana. And that's kind of what sparked my interest with Jason. I started buying lures in the shelf there. I always liked his labels. And I loved his lures because they worked. I mean, they really did. And
they do.
Once I met Jason, I was like, man, this guy's awesome.
That's what I thought about you.
So,
yeah.
Hey,
it's mutual then.
He is the GOAT. That's what I call him.
I don't know
The
about
goat.
all that. But yeah, that's how I got hooked up with Jason. Really, I was like, you know what? His trapping lures are legit. So
Right.
I'm gonna kind of expand and try out his deer lures. And I tell you what, the past 4 seasons I've used his lures. I've been successful, very successful. And I'm going to continue using them until I guess the day I can't. But.
Right. Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, actually on your guys' videos, make sure the volume's turned all the way down. It'll feed through the mic. Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about, and I told Jason, there's some people that I follow that are on Facebook that are, avid users of Van Meter Sound Lures and stuff. And I really enjoy following you guys because of pictures and what you guys are doing in the outdoors and stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about this deer head that's on the table. So this was a buck that you were after. And tell us a little bit of the story behind this particular buck.
Well, 2020 season was when I first laid eyes on this deer. And he was just an average 8-pointer. He was a really nice buck, but I was specifically targeting the buck I killed in 21. And So this deer just kind of got put on the back burner, and I know a lot of people think I'm crazy, but he got put on the back burner. And fast forward to 21, I ended up shooting my target deer. Well, this deer was still coming through, and he actually had 2 drop tines. It was a really nice buck, but he just didn't. I don't know. He just didn't catch my eye. So after I'd killed my buck and kind of let things rest, the following spring, I told my hunting partner, I said, "Hey, let's go look for this buck sheds. I want to see what he really is." We found him as soon as we went out in the woods, and once we found him, we realized that buck was a lot bigger than what we expected. He ended up gross scoring 168, had two symmetrical drop tines. And so I was like, well, you know what? Next year will be the year that I target that buck. And he was pretty consistent the fall of 2020. So I was like, well, he'll pick up the same routine in 2021 if he doesn't get killed. Well, once I found his sheds, I knew that I had a really good chance of killing this deer. So I thought about him all spring, all summer, just wondering what he'd look like. Because I was at 168, I was like, you know what? He could blossom into a really big buck and hopefully hit 180. And sure enough, he showed up. The first picture I got of him was September 22nd of 22. And he come in and it just looked awful. Sick as all get out, skin. And you got that gut feeling that the deer's going to make it. But then again, if you look at him, you're like, nah, he's not going to make it. He gets one cold winter or one cold spell, he's done for.
Now, Cody, is this the first picture you got of this buck?
That was the first picture.
Okay.
I'd got a series, I think, of 5 or 6 pictures, September the 22nd, but those were the pictures right there. And I know just looking at him, it was a gut-wrenching feeling because I was like, man, he's not going to make it. There's no way he's going to make it. And
So you got sheds, right?
mm-hmm.
And then that just is a big sigh of relief.
Yes.
In the spring. And then you get this picture as your first picture in the fall of September.
Yep.
And it's just like it just takes the wind out of your sails.
Took everything. I was instantly depressed. had really nice deer on the farm though, and in that area there were some really nice deer, but I didn't really care about those deer. That deer was the one I wanted. That was the deer I was just determined to kill, and that was the deer I just talked about. That was the drop tine buck I wanted. And my hunting partner, he's like, he said, don't kill any other deer. He said, that's the deer you're going to kill. Don't shoot anything else. And we got some nice deer on the farm, some really nice ones in the area. So I was like, all right, I'm going to target this buck. I said, but we got another buck pushing 180s. I said, if he comes by, I'm probably going to shoot him too.
Right.
I said, it'd be hard to let a 180
right,
walk. I really will.
Exactly.
But I kind of stayed out of the area where that other buck was in, just so I could really kill this one. And once he disappeared from me after them pictures, I know I just kind of switched gears and I started targeting another buck and just hoping. I kept cameras on the same property and I was just hoping he'd come back through, and then I would switch gears back and try and kill him. But he never did. And went through the whole month of October, the whole month of November, and I was like, well, I ain't seen him. And 2021, that whole fall, I mean, this deer was in there all the time. I mean, I could literally tell you what the deer was going to do just about. I seen him nonstop. He was really, really active. And that's what made me think he was going to die, because he was everywhere, literally everywhere. But he didn't. And so once I didn't see him that whole month of November, rolling into December, and I'd passed on a couple of really nice bucks just hoping I wouldn't regret it. And I didn't regret it. But after season ended, me and my shed hunting partner, we took off. I was like, hey, we got a nice day. Let's just go look. I know we're going to find this buck. And we knew where to look. We knew where we'd find him at. And within an hour of looking, we found him.
I have a picture of that also. It's kind of like, you it's not the way you wanted to find him, but at least now you know, I guess, that,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It's a gut wrenching feeling, but I don't know. It's closure though to know that I found him.
Right.
I guess to say.
You got your hands on him one way or another. I guess.
I did. It ain't the way I wanted to find him,
right. But what did he end up scoring?
Me and my buddy taped him, and we're not professionals, but we get pretty close, and we grossed him at 181.
181.
He's
a dandy.
Sure.
Yeah. He put
He
on
is a dandy.
The sheds that we found off of him in 2021, which would have been the spring of 22. they were grossed at 168 with double drop tines, roughly 3 or 4 inches long.
I got you.
Hmm.
So the one thing that we wanted to cover on this show is like strategies. You know, when Jason and I talked about starting this show, one thing that we wanted to do was try to make it educational show and that type of stuff. Let's just go over like some of the stuff that you might have done to prepare to try to harvest this deer. Like, what's some tactics that you use as far as how you hunt this? When you find a deer of this caliber, right? It's not like you can just run a gun and do whatever, just throw everything to the wind and just go hunt, right?
Yeah.
So, what's some tactics that you used?
Before Cody starts, I will have my ink pen.
Yeah,
I'm taking notes.
take notes.
For sure.
Well, my biggest thing is I usually stay out of the woods. If I can target a specific deer and I can pinpoint where he's at, and I know he's staying in that area, I won't enter the woods until probably the last week of October.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying you can't go in and kill a really nice buck early season, because it happens. You can do that, but for the areas that I hunt, you usually are really, really thick, and it's actually kind of hard to get into early season because of briars and everything's really green and nasty. So I just stay out until October, or the end of October, excuse me. And I limit my entry and going in. I don't try and overhunt one spot. And another really big key is I always monitor my cameras. My cameras are a huge tool, and I use them to the fullest. I got a good friend of mine. He always told me that if you get a picture of a deer 2 days in a row, you better be in there on that third day to kill him. And that's what I've always lived by.
Gotcha.
And that's always worked out really well for me.
Gotcha.
If I got a deer consistent 2 days in a row, he's most likely going to be in the same spot on that third day, and I'm going to be in there hunting him.
Right.
And that's how it was. I was just telling Darren before we got started on my 21 buck. I had pictures of him 3 days in a row at 8:05 in the morning doing the same thing back to back to back. And I didn't think I was going to get a chance to hunt him. Well, I did on that opening morning of gun season. I slipped in there. First time I sat in that stand, slipped in there, and here come that buck at 8:05. It was like
Really, that clockwork.
come right through.
Yeah.
8:05, and I killed him. But I definitely use the wind. I pay attention to that. But my biggest thing is knowing when to go in. I try my absolute hardest to stay out of an area.
Right.
Because if you got a buck that's no pressure, doesn't have, any human scent going through that area, he's not gonna stay hiding. He's gonna do what he usually does all year
Right.
long.
Right.
So
Yeah, he has no really reason to
Mm-mm.
get off track if
No.
he's not spooked or nothing like that.
yeah,
And I will say one thing that there's different avenues of hunting, right? Everybody has their own way of hunting. But the cool part about it is listening to people talk about how they hunt, because you can always use every tool that you can in your toolbox, right? We're fortunate enough now where we got trail cameras. We have a lot of things out there, scent crusher bags, what have you, that wasn't around 20, 30 years ago. But I think it depends on how you hunt and you use those tools to your advantage, right? And I think, like myself, if you just have like an 80-acre parcel that you're hunting year after year after year, you get antsy, you want to go, you just go and you just hunt, have fun, whatever, and that's perfectly fine. But also too, if you're hunting a particular deer, that's the deer that you're going after, right? So you can't just go in there 29 out of the 31 days of October, hunt the same stand 29 days in a row. It just depends on what kind of deer deer hunting that you want to do, right? So I think it's cool to hear other people's stories and how they hunt, and especially conditions like briars. How do you, if you're hunting a very, very thick area, it's crazy what 2 weeks, just waiting 2 weeks will do when the foliage starts to turn and fall off, because you can get in there a lot quicker, easier, not rubbing your scent all over the briars going in and out. So yeah, I think it's cool, just to listen to the people talk or tell stories about how they hunt.
And that's another thing. I always carry a pair of snips in my pocket, just so when I walk in, I usually walk in on a deer trail if I can, or just a game trail of some sort. As I'm going in, if I'm like, man, it's getting really nasty, I'll snip. Just to snip some spots, not to make it obvious, but I'll make some snips so I can get through where I'm not going to have stuff dragging my backpack or dragging my sleeves, or actually slowing me down where I'm going to make all kinds of noise.
Sound like a bear going through the woods.
Exactly.
And if anybody's watching tonight, you feel free to ask questions, because that's what we kind of want this show to be about too. People ask questions. Jason, Darren, Cody, myself, we can answer the best that we can from what we know. So, Jason, did you have anything that you want to hit on this week or on this episode?
Well, we're in that time of year where it's the perfect time to be out there scouting. I'm sitting beside two very good shed hunters, and I know that's about to happen. I know Cody always did tell me, he said, a lot of times where you find that big shed, that's where you can find him next fall. And I guess you still believe in that, don't you, Cody?
Oh, yeah.
He's always told me that, and which I have seen that to be true, very true. So yeah, we're getting into that time of the year. I was out Friday about 2 p.m. and I had to switch a few cameras around because I'm looking after this. Well, two certain deer. They're really hitting our vines pretty good right now. And I'm just watching feeding to bedding. And I was out at 2 p.m. rearranging a camera the other day, and the wind was up, and I thought that'd be a good time to get out there. And sure enough, while I was trying to put a camera on a fence post, here they all come. The bucks were all bachelored up, and both of my shooters for 2023 and 6 other bucks.
Nice.
And they walked not close, but it was close enough. I was nervous, and wide open field. And so they and what they done was they told on herself. They come out of a bedding, because while they're making their transition from bedding to 2 o'clock afternoon feeding, I'm pulling up Google Earth and I'm seeing exactly where they come from. But it's pretty neat to watch, because they left a bedding, which I knew that was buck bedding, and they crossed the field and went into another finger woods, and they started to browse. Gotcha. And they all it was feed time.
Right.
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. These bucks, they feed 3 or 4 times or 5 times in a 24-hour period. And a lot of times 3 times that's during the daylight hours. Mm-hmm. And we're in that time of year right now where the stem count's down. I mean, we're in the winter months. A lot of food has become scarce. For one reason, browse, they've done eat it. Right. And it's not in the season to grow back yet. So these bucks, I was watching how they were moving from bedding to afternoon feeding. And so I was able to get out of there, and I thought, man, I hope I don't spook these dudes. And I started to ease out, and I seen a few tails, but that night at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, they were on my cameras. Everybody showed up, so we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good.
I've got a few antlers I want to find, but I don't want to get in there and push them out. That's the thing about finding sheds this time of year. You want to go, but if you bump him out of there, he's just going to go shed on the neighbor.
Right.
Or a good chance of it.
Right.
So I'm just kind of laying low, figuring out some bedding right now, because that bedding, it'll stay. It'll be productive next fall.
So when should we start shed hunting? I'll just ask that question.
I'll ask them guys.
Now,
I'm a little different. I found them as early as the first week of January. I personally like to wait, because right now I've got my cameras that have been going off all day and last night. Every one of my bucks, just about, except for my small one, still holding. Both sides. Yeah.
I'm at probably 95% on the herd that I'm watching. I've had some young deer drop, but I don't want to get in there right now because I don't want to bump them out.
Right.
So I'm just going to wait and if you monitor your deer like I do, and I know these guys do, you'll know him when he don't have antlers.
Right.
And so I'm kind of just waiting to see them drop. And then as soon as I see them drop, it's kind of like hunting them in the fall. As soon as you see them that third time.
Right.
Well, as soon as I see them that first time without both antlers, I'm going in.
Well, that kind of brings up a good point. A lot of people think, if they hear deer hunters talk and they're like, well, I had pictures of him in 18, 19, 20. And people are like, how do you even know that that's the same deer? Right. But when you watch a particular deer day after day on cameras, even like Cody said, watch them from the stand or whatever. I mean, I think they're kind of like humans. I mean, you can just the way they talk or where they walk, everything. Like you can pick out a particular deer. Mm-hmm. If you see enough pictures of a deer, if they got two hairs out of place, I mean, you're going to know, like if they got a scar, if they got
Yes.
whatever, you're going to know
Yes.
exactly what deer it
We
is.
know,
So.
we know them so well, we name them.
Right.
That's
My
bad.
wife she's always said, what do you name? How do you know it's a same deer?
Right.
Honey, after you study a deer, you just know.
Right.
As a hunter, you know if it's the same deer or not.
When you watch him, day after day,
Mhm.
you can tell which deer is what. So bring him to another question, Cody, Darren, Jason. Where is the best place to start shed hunting? I know this kind of got brought up on the last show, and I'm asking these questions just from a viewer standpoint, right? Just to kind of get some information out there. But where's the best place to start shed hunting? If you walk into a 100-acre parcel, I mean, do you just start zigzagging back and forth, or is there particular places that you go?
I like to shed hunt just outside of bedding areas, whether it be this time of the year. Honeysuckle. I found a lot of sheds in honeysuckle patches, open fields, cut corn fields, soybean fields, drainage ditches off of bedding areas. I like to concentrate on those areas
Gotcha.
and try to stay out of that bedding area,
Right.
if possible.
Just kind of stay around the outer edges of it.
I'm really, I'll agree with Darren. A lot of my sheds, believe it or not, that are found are actually on south facing slopes. Just for the fact that in the wintertime, you get more sunshine in the wintertime. And those deer, obviously we didn't have too hard of a winter, but those deer will bed on those south facing slopes where the sun's going to hit the most.
Yes,
Gotcha.
And so they're going to stay there and get warm. And it's a bedding area, so I try not to get in there, but at the same time, that's where they are.
That's where they're at. Right.
So,
Right.
and I mean, I found them in a lot of strange places. I mean, like Darren said, you find them in cut cornfields, drainage ditches, fence jumps. So they're there, but my number one place would probably be south facing slopes where I know.
South facing slopes.
90% of the sheds that I find are usually that last week of February, first week of March. I'll start this time of the year.
Yeah.
Like that shed I found over there laying on the table. That deer was sporting both sides Sunday. Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday.
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah, today's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay, so it was 3 or 4 days ago. He had both sides. I found that shed today. The rain caught me today. I'm thinking normally a deer of that size, from my experience, if I have found a shed like that, I usually find the other one within 100 to 200 yards away. So I'll go back in there when the weather's right.
And look again.
Yeah, and it was on the outskirts of the bedding area.
Gotcha. Brad Walden said that his dad seen 4 big bucks Sunday around 3 afternoon, all still carrying bone. Brad's gonna go quick. When would you stop looking?
Never.
Never.
I found
When you're in the woods, your eyes are always open, right?
always.
I've seen, not to interrupt, I've seen deer carrying both sides through March.
I'll agree. I've seen deer carrying all the way to the opening day of turkey season. Believe it or not, I've seen bucks.
And that's
both
wild
sides.
too.
Yeah.
That's wild. That is wild.
I actually found one of my largest sets. It's been a couple of years back, but I found one of my largest sets during firearm season.
Really?
177-inch set of sheds.
Did they have any like wear and tear to them?
Just your typical sun fading.
Yeah.
Very minimal chewing, but yeah, I wasn't looking for them. My eyes were
Just-
focused, and I
yeah.
just found them laying on top of a big ridge, right on top of a south-facing slope on a big ridge.
Wow.
Something
Yeah.
about those south that we talked about on the last podcast. Deer love south facing
Yep.
slopes.
Levi Glass said we still got a lot of mature bucks at work, still carrying both sides. And then Brad said he stops after mushrooms quit growing.
They make
Just
it a little
typically-
difficult to hard to find when the grass gets tall.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I stop after mushrooms. Quit growing.
If we pause too, a lot of times we're reading through the comments because we want to make sure we answer people's questions and that type of stuff. Jason, did you have anything? What else did you have on your list last night when I was down talking to you?
Well, I've
You was
been
taking notes.
Yeah,
So,
I've been having some people text me about how long our product is good,
okay,
and I
that's
tell
what
them, I tell all of our customers, of course, we don't overstock and we don't pre-bottle season ahead, and but if you do have anything left over, just keep it in possibly a cool, dark place. Main thing is out of direct heat and out of direct sunlight, and just shake it up every time you use it.
Gotcha.
So, so yeah, I just wanted to share that. And also, we are pursuing a website. So
That was big news last night when you told me
Yeah,
that. I was
we'll-
like, that's
we'll,
awesome.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
It kind of has me concerned. So, and just because generating more business.
Is
But
that
anyhow.
so? Is that the one that you found?
Mm-hmm. That's the set of sheds.
Wow.
During firearms.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's no way you can put that up.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on
But
it.
anyhow,
We'll work on it.
do you have a, that's a dandy. Do you have any of those pictures of that buck working that vine? Was you able to get that put up?
No, because we struggled so bad
Okay.
here. Let me see if I can. You guys keep talking, and I'll work on getting some pictures up for the people. How about that?
Well, I've had a lot of
I
people.
never had professionally, but I just rough idea. I mean, a buddy of mine-
I've had a lot of people asking about our vertical vine and what we put on it. A lot of times I'll put the number 11 on it and the ridgetop buck and rut. And I think Matt's going to try to get a picture up maybe, and which I'm sure most have seen on our Facebook page. But that's where I hope to find a lot of our sheds is around our mock scrapes and vertical vine. Because they visit these locations at least every day or every other. So that's a good tool to use hunting or shed hunting.
Matt, would you like me to send you them?
Yeah, can you text that to me?
I can.
So
We got all kinds of stuff going on. This is gonna be awesome. Hang on a minute.
looks like I've got a hacker on here. That's
Do
not-
you?
Yeah, looks like it. So
They want to learn about your deer sense, Jason.
I guess so. Yeah.
Put your number down there.
A little suspicious.
Just type it in.
My name or number.
Number.
But anyhow, Cody, have you got a certain buck picked out for next year?
Yeah,
Is
I do. I can.
and I guess you're going to try to go after his sheds here soon.
Yeah, I haven't seen him since the end of December, but I've actually had a camera die on me. And I've just been really, really busy with work and haven't had a whole lot of time to get out and put batteries in. But the deer actually lived on the neighboring farm all summer and spring last year. And luckily, one of my really, really good friends, my shed hunt partner and deer hunt partner, me and him would kind of keep tabs on. I'd get pictures of him one day and he'd get pictures of him the next day, but he ended up staying down on me more last year than he ever has. So, and we found a couple years worth of his sheds already too. So hopefully we can find him again this year. He's pushing as a clean 8-pointer. I'm wanting to say last year he was 160. So he may hit 170 this year. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Jason, I've had a lot of people ask me too about your products as far as what are you using this time of year and how are you using it this time of the year? Can we go over that a little bit?
I've still got a few drippers out, and I know Darren can add to this too. I still have a few drippers out, and I'm using ridgetop buck and rut a lot right now in my drippers. It seems to really keep the communication between some of them target bucks and the mock scrape and the vine. Darren sent me a picture the other day. I think you're still using some number 11.
Mm-hmm. Faithfully. And same deers, does, bucks.
I think-
they it looks like that area, it looks like cattle have horses or whatever have just shredded
Mm-hmm.
the edge of that field. The does dig. I mean, because I've got a couple places where I've sprinkled that, just to see the reaction of the deer. I mean, there's holes, I kid you not, in the ground, 2-3 feet wide, 2-3 feet deep.
Really?
And that's a mock scrape
Yep.
that they have just dug and dug and dug.
So number 11 is pretty much an all year
It is. It's a
attractant.
it is a dough and heat, but it's got about 4 other ingredients in it, musk and glands. I mean, it's a good communicating lure. I know Cody. I think Cody always gets him a little bottle of it every year.
Every year. Every year. You won't see me in the woods without it. It's in my pocket every time I go out.
The number 11.
Every year.
I had a bottle of my wife or a bottle of my truck one time, and my wife asked me if that was clone I was using. I said, no, but it stays in my truck year round. If I go to the woods, it's going on something.
Amen.
Brad wants to know, Jason, are we doing a giveaway tonight? He could use one of them stands behind you.
Saw that.
I don't think we'll be giving away any tree stands tonight
Not
to give
tonight.
away. Levi Glass wants to know, will mature bucks shed in the same area year after year if they are not heavily pressured, or is that a toss up?
Darren, I'll let you talk on that if you want.
Well, I have found with the one particular buck that I may have been hunting that I did not get the opportunity to harvest. I'll go back in his home core area, and I have found sheds from that same buck 1, 2, maybe 2 years in a row. So I would kind of agree with that. Yes, you can find a lot of sheds from the same buck in the same area, and maybe within 100 yards, 200 yards of where you initially found the first one, you may go back in there the second year and find them. But how many years in a row you can do that, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've done it a couple of years in a row, but I don't know if I've ever went 3 or 4.
Right.
Because normally, at the 3rd or 4th year, I've harvested that deer.
Right.
So, but I would agree with that question. That's great. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I would think so.
What's your take on it, Cody?
Well, for instance, this buck in front of me, I'd have to dig through my pile, but I believe I've got 2 years of sheds off of him, and the buck I killed in 2021, I've got 3 years of sheds off of him, and
Really?
every single one of them has been in the same area. And the buck I killed in 21, we found a single the first year, a match set the first year, a single the following year, and then the last year before I killed him, we found another single, and every one of those were all within probably 200, 250 yard
Really?
radius. Yeah, every one of them. The dude, he didn't go nowhere.
So it's his core area.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Jamie Gray said, I once found a shed of the buck I killed while I was dragging it out. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. I'd say not too many people could say that.
I mean, then that right there just goes to prove that buck was in his core area. I mean,
I'll tell you what I've learned just this winter scouting the parcel. It's a 400-acre parcel that I hunt. And I don't know why I'm throwing it out there, but I'm going to. But anyhow, so I struggled in the beginning of the year trying to figure out where they wasn't a deer that I was after. I luckily harvested the one I was after, but I was struggling so hard to figure out where these 2 other deer bed. I almost called Cody and sent him a aerial snapshot because he can usually point them out. That guy's gifted. But anyhow, I mean, there's somebody on here said he's the best big buck deer hunter.
I did see that comment.
Cody
earlier.
Fortenay is the best big deer hunter.
Scott Parks.
But anyhow, so what I have learned so much this winter is through cameras and just kind of sneaking in there and watching, glassing some bedding areas and seeing them actually in their bedding areas is I have learned where these 2 different deer bed. And now that I can put it all together from what I was learning in September, October, November, I can put it all together now and said, because I couldn't figure it out last fall, but now this winter, I'm putting all the dots together where these deer, where they're bedding, where they have multiple beds, where they're feeding, where they're traveling, where their water is. And I think right now is such a crucial time. Everybody wants to put their cameras over a salt lick come July or what have you. And guys 6-month window is what I think you should really run your camera. And that's just me. I run from September to February. And which I'm kind of new to the whole camera thing, but I have learned more from December to February than I have
all year, pretty much.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
So I'm really excited to kind of put all this information together and see what happens come September, October. And the best part about it is I won't have cameras where I have cameras now.
Right.
Because it's just not. I'm using cameras right now to scout, and but it's definitely going to tell me where they're coming from, where they're bedding, why they are where they are. But it's all from what I've learned from December, January, February. This
Kind of
year.
just their behaviors, like
Mhm.
yeah, where they're staying and that type of stuff.
Mhm.
We got some good questions again. Well, thanks Donald for tuning in. We appreciate it. Neil family, Jason, do you do orbital or torso gland sense?
This is how I say it. Everything you need is in number 11. I won't tell formulas or
Right,
ingredients, but everything you need is in our old number 11. Ridgetop buck and rut is another one, especially if you're targeting a dominant buck. The early season, mid season, the ridgetop buck and rut is a challenging type lure attractant, and it has everything you need in it. You can apply that to your licking branch, mock scrape, natural scrape, vertical vines, rub branch. So
Right. Charlie Meredith, what would you guys say is the most vital steps to take in the off season to be most prepared for when the season comes around? As someone who has hunted land owned by other people, as of now, I have a piece of land that I have the ability to manage. That would be some tips as far as property managed to be most effective.
Cover. Make sure you got cover. Do improvements to your land if you can. That's my biggest thing. You want deer to feel safe and at home, so you want thickets. You want nasty stuff. I'm not saying you can't kill deer in big open timber, but thickets is what I love. I mean, the deer love it too. They know they're safe. They just
Right.
feel that. So if you can plant warm season grasses or possibly do I know a lot of people are kind of worried about hinge cutting, but if you can knock down some of that canopy so briars and all that nasty stuff comes up, I mean, you're really helping out tremendously when you can create good solid cover.
It's almost like you're building a house, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Building, I mean, cover is
Carpeting their bedroom for 'em.
yeah,
Yep.
pretty much. Darren, what is there anything you can put in on that as far as what you do?
I mean, I would have to agree with what Cody said. I mean, that's what I was thinking. You got to have cover. You got to have a food source and a water source.
Yep, that's what I was going to say too.
If you got a big tract of timber or a big parcel per se, even if you're hunting 100 acres, if you're hunting 10 acres, if you've got those three things, I mean, if you want to grow and manage your deer, you got to have those three things. So that is what I would tell somebody. Those three things are essential.
Yeah, I call them the big three, right? So no matter what you're doing,
Triple
first thing
crown.
you got to look at is you got to look at cover, food, and water.
Absolutely.
That's what you need to cover first and foremost. I did notice, Jason, you put in some man-made water holes last year.
Mm-hmm.
And did you do it the year before? Or was that just last year?
Well, I've always had one behind the house here and some other locations, but I actually started building some last year
Got you.
and just trying to get that inside my kill circle. Them guys are right. I mean, you got to have cover, and they got to have browse. I mean, everybody's big on their food plots, and that's fine. They do love it, but they want the browse.
Right.
They want the briars. They want the honeysuckle. They want the regeneration shoots coming off of a hinge cutting. And like Cody said, getting that canopy opened up so things can grow on the inside of these thickets. If you want to kill big deer, hunt where a tornado went through or where they have come through and clear cutted a parcel. And deer, that's where they live. That's where they feel secure.
Right.
That's where they can eat. Because these big bucks, a lot of times, they'll feed during the day, but they may only feed a quarter acre circle because it's in their bedding.
True.
And they'll just get up a little bit. They'll go over here and eat some green for some water, and then they'll eat some woody browse, whether it be an acorn, whether it be a tip off of a briar or off of a small green tender limb off of a sapling. But that's definitely what they want. I'm just big on that kill circle. I remember when I started doing the rub branch, Cody coming to my shop or stopped by or something. I said, man, I'm going to do something. And I told him what I was going to do, because back in the early 90s, a snowstorm had come through and blew over a bunch of pines in my grandma's pine thicket. And that's where I started noticing horizontal rubs as a teenager. And I've seen several throughout the years naturally, and they're out there. But anyhow, I told Cody, he's in my shop. Do you remember that, Cody? I told you, I said, man, I'm going to do something. And he said, yeah, there's a guy on the internet that does that. And I said, well, I know there's nothing new under the sun, but I'm going to do it.
Right.
And because I was kind of using my trapping techniques and just all about the gland and the urine and the pellets, the droppings, and a rub, a mock scrape. And so I had all that just going on in my mind, and I started doing that. So my kill circle, I like to develop it. I really like that.
Gotcha.
So I'll do a rub branch, and I'll do a vertical vine, and I'll do a dripper. And location's key. You just can't throw that stuff up anywhere.
Right.
You know, you've got to be in an area where they're social. You've got to be in an area where they have edge and some cover. I like putting it right there where they visit first thing in the evening. Because a lot of times where they visit first thing in the evening, there's a lot of times they're going to be pretty close to that
Right.
In the mornings, because it's all about bedding.
Right.
And it's all
Circle.
about that circle. Mm-hmm.
So we'll go. I want to come back and hit on that in a second, Jason. But I do want to ask Donald Small's question. Can you guys go into details on how you use your lure with a deer drag? I know it's usually brought up every fall. Like, right. So you just take sand, you put it on a rag or drag rag, and you just take off. Do you guys have certain techniques for that? Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you what I do. I'll take, depending on the time of the year, I use number 11 as a cover scent. But during the rut, I will take doe and heat, and I will put it on a drag rag. I usually buy one here off Jason, and I'll put it in a Ziploc bag. I'll put a little bit of that lure in that bag and let that drag rag soak in that bag all night. Strings attached to it. That way, when I get up in the morning, it's ready to go.
Right.
And I'll hook it to my belt, pant leg, whatever.
Just take
But
off.
I'll soak mine for 24 hours.
Gotcha.
Sometimes longer than that.
You use one, Cody?
I do not use a drag rag. What I've always done is I've always sprayed my boots.
Spray your
I've
boots.
always sprayed my boots walking in, and when I get to my tree, I've always sprayed one squirt above my head on the tree I'm sitting in every time. It might just be me.
Right.
or I might just like the smell of it. I don't know what it is, but I always spray it above my head right there. So, and when I get whiffs of it, I know it's
It's
doing
circulating.
exactly like Darren says. It's helping as a cover scent. It's actually
Right.
getting dispersed out a whole lot more.
Mhm.
And I actually had a buck in 2018. It was a 5.5-year-old buck. I had him aged. Never ever seen the deer before. I did that exact same thing, and my hunting buddy was with me on the backside of the tree, and I sprayed my boots walking in, and we walked straight to the tree, and right before dark, that buck got out of his bed and hit that trail and come right down.
Like you
Mm,
pulled him in.
When he stopped, at like 10 yards. I mean, he
Really?
was right there, and I shot him. It was
Worked
yeah,
out perfect
it
then.
worked
Those are hunts you don't forget.
Like a
no,
script.
I'll never forget that one. That was a really memorable hunt because
Right.
it seemed like it happened so fast, and you couldn't ask for a more perfect hunt. I mean, it
Right.
just
Hell,
textbook.
What's crazy, you come down here and you got that bottle of number 11, and I'm like, he just got that.
Yeah, I use it a lot. I do.
Yeah.
But
I use
it's
a lot
like,
of it.
he just got that bottle, and then he kills this great big buck. I was like, man,
Right. You just got that.
you're supposed to use it a little longer.
Right.
But no, I like to use I like to do a drag rag. I don't do it all the time. I do a lot of misting, and but I like to do a drag rag every once in a while, just depending on what's going on and what the wind's like and everything. So once I get in, I'll hang that drag rag up
Mhm.
and
I do the
just
same
maybe
thing.
spray it 2 or 3 times with whatever I'm using that day,
Right.
and then just let it kind of whip in the wind.
Well, what I didn't mention, I normally use a drag rag during the rut,
Mm-hmm.
but I will still, even during the rut, if I use that drag rag with, the doe and heat, I've still got that on number 11 on me somewhere.
Right.
So I'm actually going in with 2 different, that makes me feel more comfortable, and that lets me know that, hey, if there is a deer or a buck that comes in, that buck's going to think, well, there's been multiple deer that's
Right.
come in through here, with this doe that is into estrus. There's
Right.
another one in here, so that's my thinking on it.
I've had a lot of customers tell me, and I know this sounds like I'm just trying to blow the product up, but they've walked or drag rag number 11 in, and then they'll see a buck chasing a doe, and they'll usually stop right on that number 11 trail. And if that's 75, 85 yards out, I mean, that's an opportunity for a good gunshot.
Sure.
Right.
And I know Zach Dobbins, he's used our product for years, and he actually has told me that, and he's witnessed that many a times, to where he'll see a buck chasing a doe and come across his trail and stop just long enough to get a shot. So, but drag rags are powerful. They're a powerful tool, and they may not be for everybody, but I know a lot of guys use them during the rut, especially with the number 11, doe and heat as well. So
I do. So going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, Jason, my plan is, as long as Jason and these guys are on board with it, I do want to kind of, whether we do it this spring, summer, whatever, I would like to do some YouTube content on like locations of licking branches and rub branches and, drag rags, whatever we can utilize or whatever we can come up with to post on our YouTube channels to get the information out there.
Mhm.
Obviously, it doesn't have to be in the heart of our hunting areas, right? But if we could just, come up with some information and show people how to hang them, where to hang them, and that type of stuff, I think it'd be very, very beneficial, in my opinion. Obviously, there's a lot of content out there, but if we can help anybody out, we can help. I think it'd be a great, great asset. So
yes. What's Travis saying there?
he agreed with Cody about spraying on my boots and tree. I've always used it as cover scent, and I enjoy the smell. I like to spray one boot with dominant buck and the other boot with doe and heat.
Yes.
Mhm.
I've heard Travis say that a lot. I kind of got away from spraying my boots. I probably sprayed too much, I'm sure, but I got away from spraying my boots with number 11 because I'd get picked off by does. They just hound dog me all the way to my tree. Then they'd look at my tree, and then they'd start stomping their foot.
Busted. Yeah.
Because they knew that 11 went up that tree.
Right.
And, so there's a lot of do's and don'ts, but you just do the old saying, just do you,
Right.
whatever suits you, whatever fits you.
Yep.
But yeah, I try to keep the number 11 because it's pretty powerful off my boots.
And it's go ahead, Darren.
I've
Go
had
ahead.
11 to do the opposite, and it's like you said, it's different strokes for different folks. That story I was telling you about when I moved the stand, the last podcast we had, it chills the does out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have blown some off
Right.
too. So,
Well, I think they see that big structure up there in that tree that's not supposed to be there, and it smells like number 11.
How'd that deer get?
What is that?
Tree?
Well, and yeah, especially them older does.
Right.
They're pretty good at that.
So the DNR did send out a survey. I'm not sure if any of you guys filled that out or anything, but
I've seen it in my emails, but
Yes.
I haven't opened it.
so one of the big questions on there was about changing deer seasons. As far as gun season, does the gun season need to be shorter? Do the dates need to be moved, and so on and so on and so on? Do you guys have any opinions on that?
gun seasons need to be cut in half. And then
I think me personally, I think gun season is anyway too long. That's just my personal opinion.
basically we have for gun seasons, we got that includes shotgun, rifle, muzzleloader.
Right.
We have, I think it's 33 or 34 days that we can, that we can harvest a deer. Most states, it's 2 or 3 day gun season.
Right. Because you got your 2 week, you got 2 weeks, 3 weekends, and I call it gun season still, but rifle, muzzleloader, shotgun, whatever. Then you got a week off. Then you got 2 more weeks, 3 more weekends of muzzleloader season.
Right.
I mean, that's what, 6 weekends and 4 weeks.
Basically, you have 3 months in the state of Indiana.
That's a lot. I mean, that's
I'll
It's a
tell you
lot of
what,
firearm
you know,
sign.
to me, it's just so much pressure on the herd.
Right.
I mean, man,
Oh, absolutely.
these poor deer, I mean, they don't stand a chance
No.
to enjoy,
Right.
you know.
Even as bow hunters, I mean, I'm just want to throw this out there. This is just my opinion, but even as bow hunters, I think one of the biggest reasons why I enjoy bow hunting is because the herd is less stressed and
Mhm.
there's not as many. And there's a lot of bow hunters. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say, but I just feel like it's a lot more enjoyable hunting, right? Because, like Cody was saying earlier, you know, when you can know what that deer's doing and all that stuff, I feel like you could just it'd be a lot more successful of a hunter.
Mhm.
When that first Saturday after the 11th of November rolls around, everything that you're doing is out the window. Like it don't matter.
Yep.
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, you can spray whatever scent you want to spray, whatever. It's going to help you. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like the whole demeanor of deer hunting just changes, in my opinion. And that's why I think, and then it's like you said, Darren, to me, it feels like that goes on for a month and a half. That whole,
It does.
it's just crazy, in my opinion. But I think you should do like 1 week of gun and then 1 week of muzzleloader and the rest of it's archery season. But that's just my opinion. So
You know,
that's my soapbox moment for the night.
you used to hear that what we were talking about made me think of this. A lot of people, a lot of the older guys that I've talked to that kind of taught me, you know, how to be a better hunter, guys that are older than me. Well, do you think there's as many deer around? I don't think there's as many deer as there used to be. That's hogwash. Deer have wised up. There's more people hunting nowadays than there ever has been. Okay, the herd may be down a little bit, but I don't think it's down that much. Deer have wised up to that. Used to, you could drive down the road and you could see 100 deer in a field. You don't see that anymore. You might see
Right.
10, 15, 20. These deer, because they are pressured so much, like Jason said, they scatter. I mean, they stay in the woods. They stay in thickets. They've wised up to that because there's more people in the woods. That's my opinion.
I remember when deer didn't look up in trees. I mean, I started deer hunting in 1984, 85. And Darren, you probably started deer hunting way before I did. But I remember through the 80s and the 90s, deer did not look up in trees.
Right.
But they look up in trees now.
Mhm.
You know, they know to look up. I seen a ground blind the other day and I got tickled. I guess it was supposed to look like a round bale. And I thought, you know, to each their own.
They're out there.
But these deer
Got the hog panel bent over
Yeah.
with the straw. Yeah.
These deer are smarter than that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use them and harvest deer. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, you got to be smart about it, you know, because they start to put everything together.
Right.
You know, they're watching you drive out there and they're watching you put it together and they're smelling the whole time. And
Right.
so
It's
but
okay,
anyway.
Travis. I knew you met Cody, but it's all good, buddy. So I don't know. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm getting on a soapbox all the time here, but going back to that point, Jason, I think a lot of it, I mean, hopefully you guys can contest to this and not disagree, but I think over the years, as hunting has become more of a, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's commercialized.
Commercialized
It's-
entertainment.
Yes, it's commercialized entertainment. And, you know, people that enjoy the sport, people that, you know, like, I'm just going to use you as an example, Cody, but people that are passionate. I mean, Jason and I talk about this all the time, but people that are like Cody that are passionate, and Darren is passionate about it, you know, you target them certain bucks and you guys live and breathe deer hunting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the entire year, right? But then also, too, you have what I call weekend warriors, which could be myself sometimes, depending on what my other hobbies are doing and that type of stuff. But going back, I mean, like Jason said, it's to each their own. You hunt the way that you want to hunt. Obviously, you want to take whatever you can off of what everybody says and use it to your own advantage to make yourself a better hunter. But yeah, it's commercialized. Like and going back to the deer herd, what I'm trying to get at is here's the deer herd. You take a sport that started off as, you know, outdoorsmen and, you know, gatherers and that type of stuff that turns into, well, I can post a 200-inch deer on Facebook and become famous within 24 hours. And it's almost like I don't know, like it's just taken over everything in my
Well,
opinion. You know what I mean? Like
social media has commercialized it. It's a multi-million,
It's-
billion, whatever industry.
it's a
business.
double-edged sword. Like I've
It
always said,
is.
it's a double-edged sword because I have learned so. I mean, I've talked to Jason 1,000 times on Facebook Messenger, or I look for Jason's when he's going to be open on Facebook. We talked about that the other day. So it's very, very useful tool. But on the other hand, too, you can't compare yourself to everybody else through social media, right?
Right.
I hunt 60 to 80 acres. You could have 2,000 acres you're hunting. So just because you've got 4 shooters and I've got like one decent little shoot, I mean, don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. You be you, and you hunt the way that you want to hunt and how you want to hunt, and the rest of it, it'll all come out in the end. That's how I look at it. So, but as far as deer herd goes, getting back to that point, there's so much I mean, new roads being built and subdivisions going in every little nook and cranny. And me personally, I agree 100%. I don't think that the deer herd has changed that much. That's just my person. I was going through Salem the other day, driving through town, and there's 4 does standing in a yard in the middle of town.
I don't doubt it.
And they're adapting. Like
Mhm.
they're just adapting to what's going on around them. And when they're getting pressured, and they're not dumb animals, right?
That's
They're
right.
survive. They have to survive. So I don't think the deer numbers are down. I just think that I still think gun season's too long, but
It is.
I don't think the numbers are down.
But the
So,
state, well, I probably shouldn't. It'll never change. I
no.
don't think it ever will.
And there's a lot of things that play in part in that too that
Yeah.
we don't know. That's behind the scenes stuff that we don't know. I mean,
That's a
But-
different podcast.
Yeah.
segment we could talk about.
yeah, it's a whole different. And that all goes back to also too what we talked about earlier though, is about management, right? I mean, a lot of times we talk about deer numbers being down and this and that, but it also too goes back to management. If you know that the deer herd on your piece of ground that you're hunting is getting low, it's up to you to fix that also,
Mhm.
right? Don't go out and shoot 4 does and 2 buck or 1 buck, every year. Kind of keep an eye on your herd. And if the numbers are getting kind of low, then let's adjust accordingly,
Keep
and
that ratio.
keep the
right.
ratio right.
Right.
Yeah. There's a
You
lot we
have-
can
you
do.
have to.
There's a lot we can do as hunters to help that situation out.
I've
So,
seen several bucks just in the last 2 weeks. I had seen them on another parcel over a mile or so away. And you talk about herd fluctuation and deer numbers and your herd and knowing what you got. They're going to go where the food's at for sure. They're going to go where the cover and the bedding's at this time of year for sure too. But I just want to say that I've noticed 2 or 3 bucks. They've showed up on my cameras, and I had them over a mile away plus back in October, November. So, sometimes these deer are here, sometimes they're not. Sometimes
Right.
they're near, sometimes they're not. They
Right.
just kind of move with the food. Cody, I was wondering about you. What's your plans for this late winter scouting?
Well, when I get time, I've been pretty busy with work, but
Mhm.
it ain't really going to change much. I've kind of got a pretty good idea on what my deer are doing. It might change up just a little bit on a farm that I have, specifically targeting the 8-pointer I just showed you guys.
sorry, Cody, while you're talking, I do have for the people that are still watching, I totally forgot to put these pictures up. I have the pictures of Cody's. There, this is the shed that you found during gun season, right?
So the
Okay.
sheds found during gun season.
Okay, you can go ahead and finish. Sorry, I was just gonna put that up there while you talked.
But no, my strategies are. I mean, you get to know in your deer herd, you know what they're going to do, so it's not really going to change a whole lot unless I pick up a specific property that I'm not familiar with. Then I'll get in, and like I said, I'll start looking for the food. I'll start figuring out where they're mostly spending their fall and or their winter, I guess to say, and really just focus on bedrooms right now. That way I can kind of figure out what they're going to do. And really, it just ain't going to change a whole lot. That's just all I'm going to do is just kind of look for bedrooms right now.
That's it.
And I can kind of focus my area around that. If I know where a deer's going to bed at, like these bucks that I've been hunting, I almost could tell you where these deer slept. I mean, I knew where these deer were sleeping.
And that's what it takes to kill
Yeah.
big deer.
It does. I mean, obviously you got to have big deer to kill big deer, but you find a big deer and you figure out where he's staying, where he's bedding at. I mean, it's almost, I'm not going to say guaranteed because there's always things that come up, but it's a pretty high success. I mean, pretty high chance that you're going to kill that deer if you just know where he's sleeping.
That's it.
I mean, that's it. If you know where he's at, you're gonna kill that deer.
Key, buddy.
I've got a 340 acre parcel that was just recently clear cutted. I mean, it's destroyed, but I've hunted it since the 80s. So yeah, since the early 80s. I used to squirrel hunt when I was little, and I've deer hunted it forever too. But it's better now than it ever was, because it was always just a big open hardwoods with a few thickets in it, and now it is literally destroyed. And I've done some management on it. I've opened up some roads. I built a water hole, and I've got a licking vine up there and got some things going on. But this winter, I've got to really get in there because the landscape has totally changed. I mean, from what it was all my life, I mean, they're still going to hold true to a lot of travel, but they're going to have to change some routes just because of how destroyed it is.
Right.
And I just wanted to insert this for all these guys, because I hear guys saying, man, they logged my woods out. Well, that's the best thing you could ever do for a deer woods. Open that canopy up, just like Cody was saying. You get some regeneration, plenty of browse, plenty of bedding, plenty of food, plenty of cover.
Right.
But I've got to get in there this winter and really see where they have developed trails, because it was logged out, clear cutted summer of 2021. And so I was able to get in there last year and check a few things out. But this winter, I'm really going
So
to.
it's going on 2 years in, right?
Yeah, I'm really going to get my boots on the ground in there and really check it out. Because I used to know where every trail was,
Right.
you know, and but I got to see how they've
It's cool to see how they've changed.
adapted
Yeah.
that. But back to what Cody says, I've got to get in there and figure out where they're bedding. Some guys will ask, well, how do you know where they're bedding? There's a lot of little keys to that, just like Cody said about the what hillside you say, Cody? The
South.
south facing hillside. Of course, you see that a lot. I've seen that a lot over the years. But get into an area where you find a lot of rubs. I mean, you find an area where there's 15 or 20 rubs on anything. That's probably a good area,
Good sign.
a good indicator. That's where he beds.
Right.
And he had spent some time in there bedding, and he'd get up out of his bed at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and rub on a tree, eat some woody browse. But anyhow, I've got to get into this parcel of land this winter between now and when the foliage comes on, and figure out where they're bedding, where the trails are. Seen a lot of good deer up there last year. Seen a lot of good deer, but I really didn't penetrate it because I wanted, to let them have the peace to kind of regroup after the devastation of being clear cut.
But
Right.
you said that you've hunted this property for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But when did you start managing it? 2-3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to pay dividends. It's going to take it a while, but it will pay dividends. That's why you're seeing better deer in there.
Well, it's
And
just,
I know you know that. I
yeah,
had to
it's
throw
just,
that in.
Right.
I'm just so excited because they're not going to go anywhere. The food's there now. The bedding's there now.
They have
And-
everything they need.
And never forget whenever I've hunted areas like this before, whether a tornado go through or a clear cut, it's that 5th year. Look out.
Right.
The deer are big. They're established. They're on more of a pattern now, and there's still plenty of browse to eat. Still plenty
Especially
of
with
browse.
that clear cut.
Oh,
in
yeah.
That 4th and 5th year. I don't know what it is about a clear cut or power lines. I have harvested more mature bucks in clear cuts during the rut or along power lines. They cruise. They
They
the
love
power- They love it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's true.
Something I'll touch on a little bit on that with big thickets. Sorry, I keep hitting
Oh,
the
you're
tables.
fine. Yeah, you're fine.
One of the questions that was asked earlier, what you can do to improve. My go-to is always it is the top 3 like we discussed, but mine is, like I said, cover, because you got to have a deer that feels safe where he's at. But after a hard rut, usually your does that's been dogged the whole month of November, I mean, towards the end, they get pushed and pushed and pushed. Where do you think they're going to go when they're trying to get away from a buck? They're going to go to the nastiest, thickest
Oh, yeah.
possible place they can find.
Yep.
And that's why I like them, because if you get does in there, them bucks ain't dumb. They know that. They just got to
Right.
find them. So
Right.
they're going to be scouring these big old nasty thickets. I mean, they're going to try and find fence rows. I used to hunt a lot. I still hunt a lot of fence rows, but when I was growing up, that's all I really hunted was fence rows. Big old nasty fence rows. They wouldn't be but 40 yards wide, but they'd be so thick. I mean, you really couldn't even push a rabbit out the backside. They were
Right.
so big. And one of my best friends, I actually took him to hunt on one of these farms with me, and it was actually really cool because it was so thick you couldn't see anything in it, but a doe popped out. Right when that doe popped out, here came a buck, and he ended up killing that buck. It was a really nice 10-pointer. But those big old nasty thickets ain't just good for your bucks, but they also help. I mean, like your does try and get away from getting bragged to death, and then I mean they're just
Yeah.
great spots. They really are.
Right.
And the thicker you have, it's just all around good. You got browse, you got bedding, you got edge, you got cover, but you have small game for the coyotes to eat instead of your fawns.
Right.
For those that like to manage that,
Right.
if you got more rabbits, you got more birds, they're going to feed on that rather than your herd.
Right.
But I tell you what, there was somebody that asked a question in here about, do big deer have multiple beds?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. That's the deer I called the slow walker. He had 3 beds and 3 beds. They were all within probably if you would map it out, they were all within a 30-acre square. And this is on a 400+ acre parcel. But I think a lot of it had to do with wind. A lot of it had to do with food.
Weather.
Just a lot of different. There was one bed there. I was sitting in that tree stand one morning and I was hunting him, and I'd sat there probably 3 or 4 mornings. And that 4th morning or the 3rd morning, I was like, man, why are these does going into this buck bedding? And I think I've told this before. Well, I got to listen. I could hear red oaks falling up there, and them deer hear that too. They know when they hear them, they know they're falling. And so I'm watching all these does go into this buck bedding, and then they'd push out about 10:30 to go into the doe bedding. But once them acorns start falling, that's where he started bedding. And because he could go in there and browse all day long and bed.
No hurry, have to move. No.
Where he had been bedding in a cedar thicket, gum tree, just a little bit of browse, not much. But then to watch him transition, I know it was all because of the food.
Right.
And, does play a big part in that. Weather plays a big part in that. But Cody, Darren, if you want to add to that.
I was going to say, I've got a lot of setups too in Oak Flats, around, a lot of oak trees. And I mean, acorns are, in my opinion, acorns are the deer's choice of food. I mean, if you have access or you can set up close to any oak trees, it's always productive. It's always been good for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, actually, last fall, it's kind of a funny story, really. I was actually struggling to find a lot of these deer, and I knew we had a really nice crop of white oaks last year. So I was like, if I could find the one white oak, I'll find the deer.
Right.
And it took me forever. It seemed like I tried to stay out of a lot of these areas because I don't want to just blow deer out. So I try and avoid them. But I ended up finding a monster white oak last year, and I didn't hunt it, which was silly of me. But I tell you what, the ground underneath this white oak was just destroyed. There was piles of buck poop everywhere. I mean, you could just tell that's what they wanted. They preferred that over soybeans, probably 10-1. It was unreal. But I probably would have killed the deer if I sat underneath that oak tree, but I just didn't hunt it. I mean,
well, Jason, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. What's the schedule going to be? Do you have a set in stone yet? Or we just want to keep the viewers and listeners informed on when we're going to do it again?
We will.
Because we'll have to probably go over it and talk about it and stuff like that, get schedules.
And like we said the last show, a lot of people's already geared up towards fishing and turkey. And like I said, I get that, understand that. But we are really looking forward to get these guys out here August, September, October.
I do know we'll just go ahead and set that in stone. We do know 100% that August, September, we're going to go every week. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. Starting the first week of August through the end of September, we'll go every week. Because I feel like Jason and I, when we talked about it, that's just that's go time for deer hunters. And
Mm-hmm.
to be able to sit around and talk about whitetail hunting and stuff like that every week,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely want to do August and September every week. So
Also want to add, we will start doing next year adding more trapping.
yes,
Cody, he's a big trapper, and we can kind of insert that with the deer a little bit next year, especially next winter.
yeah. The first 2 episodes was definitely just getting the show out there and let people know
It is,
And
yeah.
Jason and I, Darren, Cody, we've got a lot of plans, and I really hope that everybody joins us for the ride, because I really have a
Absolutely.
feeling that this is going to be a great show.
Yeah, I do too. Especially from August on, people are really starting to gear up about their mentality changes. July 4th, I always say,
Right,
it's too hot to fish. It's time to start looking for deer.
Right, exactly.
and so from July on, that's whenever people really start thinking about their
Yeah.
whitetail herd. But I encourage people, get out there now and learn these deer, figure out where they're bedding and what they're eating, and mainly where they're bedding. Figure out where the does bed, figure out where the bucks bed, and just get out there and figure that out. But come August, September, I think it's going to be a real powerful show.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I'd like to talk about right now, but I'm just kind of waiting, waiting
right.
for the season, waiting for the time. And because I know people are going to want to hear, because they're going to be thinking about it. So
Yeah, make sure that you subscribe to the Hoosier Hardwoods Outdoors YouTube channel and the Van Meter Son Lures YouTube channel, because, like I said, hopefully we can get a lot of content pushed over there through the spring and the summer. And Jason and I are already talking about wade fishing down the river this year, so
there you go.
we could have all kinds of content going along. So,
but yeah, so probably we might do another show this winter. We may not, but just really be expecting next fall to be loaded up with a lot of content, a lot of information, and we'll just go from there. But I appreciate Cody coming on board. Man, Cody was probably, I don't know how old you was when I met you. You was in your teens. You was
a little while.
Yeah, Jason was telling me this story the other day about the fur buyer and then meeting you for the first time.
And that's where I met Cody, and but glad to have him and his knowledge. And I'm very blessed to have these two guys promoting us. So
Absolutely.
I still tell Caleb all the time, it's time for you to get on the show. He
He
just ducks his head and walks off.
just walks off, doesn't he?
So
Do you guys have anything you want to add before we get off here?
There was one question here. Somebody asked, Blake Roberts, how do you guys think the quality of deer would decrease if gun season were to take place in early October or mid-December? I think it'd be best in December and leave it at that.
Yeah, I do too.
So, but
I think if I was going to change it, I think I'd push it back, not forward. But that's
exactly.
Well, either that or have a 3-day gun season, 3-day muzzleloader like Illinois. I know Illinois does. Pretty sure Wisconsin still is. Their season may be a little bit longer than that, but Ohio.
But you could, but technically though, you could leave muzzleloader season exactly like it is, but the first half of it is firearm season. The second half of it is muzzleloader season, right? So you still have your 3 weekends, 2 weeks. I mean, it was still short. I mean, because you're cutting out a full, complete firearm season. You know what I'm saying? But like the first week and a half is firearm,
right?
And then the second half would be muzzleloader only.
Yeah.
And you're still cutting it in half. So yeah, there's several ways to do it, but I think it needs to be in December, not mid-November.
Exactly.
Yeah. I kind of have mixed emotions about the quality of the deer that we would see, how it would affect us. If we did shorten our season, or if it ever became to a point where it was shorter, there would be a lot more quality deer killed. But then again, I look at it as this way: there's a lot of people out there that don't get a whole lot of time off, so
Right,
their time is very limited. So
true.
the first thing they're going to do is they're going to fill their buck tag,
Right.
whether it's that or a spike or basket,
That
whatever
is
it is. So
Great point.
it's difficult to really say what it's going to be like. I mean, you'll have big deer killed. There's big deer killed every year. I mean, you see that, but you're going to have people that get desperate and they're going to be like, I'm just killing the bucks. So they're going to shoot the first thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know how.
It's kind of twofold, really. Yeah,
It
I
is.
see. I
It is.
exactly see what you're saying. So, because if I got a week vacation, I mean,
Yeah.
you're limited,
Yep.
right?
And again, a lot of the surrounding states, well, it's not that they've shortened their season. They just don't have as long as gun season.
Right.
You can still bow hunt, and a lot of states now have legalized crossbows, matter of fact, I think probably all states now you can,
Yeah.
there may be a few of them out there that you can't, I'm sure there might be, but that's a good point you brought up, and I've thought about that too, with the comment I made about shortening gun season. I still think in the state of Indiana, the gun seasons are too long, but I don't think it'll ever change
I don't
because
think so
the
either.
insurance companies dictate.
Yeah. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that
Oh, you
dictate
better
it.
believe it.
Yeah.
And it's a loss of revenue for the state.
Right.
Even if, and this is just my personal opinion, even if we did just move our season, kept the dates 2 weeks for our modern firearm, if they just pushed it back, because right now our season falls right in the heart of the rut. I
Mhm.
mean, you
Yeah.
get the absolute most activity you
Exactly.
could possibly have, and that's when all these big deer get
Well, in
killed.
the state of
and it's-
Indiana, most of the bucks are harvested between, November the 14th and November the 20th. I think that's right. Somewhere in that time
First week of
frame,
gun season.
That's exactly right.
the bulk of the deer that are harvested.
One more that Travis Hawkins said, talking about bedding, and then we'll get out of here. Or like that buck I was after, Jason, he had to have had a lot of what I call nomadic beds. Oh, there it goes. He's not there long enough to leave his mark. I put 20 miles on my boots in the forestry for 3 days looking for his beds. Never did find it. And I think too, I don't know Travis's situation really, but pressure means a lot. I mean, he's not going to stay around if there's other hunters
Right.
and, things pressuring him from bed to bed. But I'll guarantee you one thing, he knows exactly where to go and he knows when he's going. So to figure out them buck beds,
It's a great question, Travis.
it's tough. It is tough. So post on Facebook when you think it's go time, when most of the sheds are on the ground. So somebody asked here, did you see that?
Tony's comment.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, that's just saying like one of us post on Facebook when it's go time for
You
shed
need to
hunting.
be out shed hunting 1st of March for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks, I'd say it's go time.
My situation is I don't want to bump.
Absolutely,
I don't want to bump my deer on the neighbor. I don't want him dropping on the neighbor. I'd rather find him where I'm seeing him every day now.
Right.
So I'm going to stay out until I see him without antlers.
Mhm.
But yeah, March 1st, probably.
And the comment I made a while ago, we were talking about early in the show about when to start. I've started. Normally, I don't start this early, but I'm self-employed. I don't have a whole lot going on right now.
No, Darren don't have
No
much
better
going on,
place to
so
be
he's
than
going.
in the
He's going to
woods.
shed hunting.
Right.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, we'll keep everybody informed on when the next show will be. And until then, this will be over on Spotify tomorrow. So anybody that would really listen to the podcast version, this will be on Spotify tomorrow. So we will keep everybody informed. Thank you all for coming on tonight, and I had a blast. And we will see you on the next episode.
thank you.
thank you.